What's up, everybody? Welcome back. Welcome to another episode of the July, January, June podcast, sports podcast. 716.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
Oh, okay. All right. I didn't know the angle
I was
there.
really confused.
July, January.
Sabres just allowed two
January,
shorthanded goals on the
June
same power
sports
play.
podcast.
This is a great. We're in the great mood, folks.
Oh, wait, they scored.
Yeah, they're both shorthanded within
Two
the first minute
shorthanded
of the
goals
same power
within
play.
a minute, yes.
All right, cool. Well, we'll get to that later when that game's official. You can guess when we're watching. There's 10:54 left in the third period.
Is
we'll
that
get back to
bad?
It's not great.
People are asking.
I was going to talk about today how they've been playing better and played well this game.
Not this one.
And then
Everything was great until Rasmus Dahlin took a elbow right to the fucking mouth, and they didn't call anything.
Nothing. Should have been. I mean, so the elbowing penalty, not even anything called. He has the puck. He's just dumping it off, and he gets lined up.
Yeah,
Taken out.
I don't get it. Quote
Nary
unquote,
a call.
but I understand how you miss it if it's away from the play. The fact that every referee on the ice can miss that while it is literally he's got the guy with the puck. He's the guy you're watching. That is inexcusable.
That's just blatant. Nothing called. He's out for the rest of the game. Lower body injury, we have to assume. And we'll see what comes of it.
The lower part of his face.
But after things look, pretty good. Let's leave with Sabres tonight, actually, since we're watching them. I mean, things looked pretty good last night in Florida.
they played pretty well in Boston, too.
Yeah, they played well enough to win. They did not play well enough against Minnesota. So, maybe they deserved more than 2 points out of those 3 games. That's what they had.
I would argue that the first period against Boston was maybe the most impressive period of hockey they've played all year, and they just didn't finish their chances.
They just can't
They
sustain
were
it.
dominant that first period.
It was impressive to watch. It literally felt like a whole new hockey team, like someone had woken them up after the little soccer game in the hallways of the KeyBank Center on following the Minnesota games. Like it actually might have worked some magic at least temporarily, and then Boston's offensive talent really came through, and they might get a third one. I guess it's not shorthanded anymore. Well, that game.
That's a goal.
All right, 6-2 Tampa Bay. We've been recording this podcast for 2 minutes, and Tampa Bay scored 3 goals.
This is incredible. And look, Tampa, we knew that Tampa's capable of this, that we know that they can go in streaks, but to give up 2 shorties in what essentially amounts to a third, although it won't be credited on the score sheet as such. This, we got a lot of defensive depth.
And to do nothing and they didn't even set up their power play.
It's debatable whether or not Ralph Kruger fixed the Sabres, but he has fixed the Tampa Bay Lightning, so he's got that going for him, which is nice.
The Ninger back, baby.
Yes,
Looking
it's
good.
later.
6 points in 3 games.
Jeff's on fire tonight.
Way to go, Krugs.
Oh, it's just frustrating to watch this hockey team because I was so excited.
Stronger leg than that.
Like we were in here, I think it was 3 or 4 weeks into the season, and I said something that I really did believe at the time: is that the Buffalo Sabres were playing better hockey than the Buffalo Bills were playing football. And at that time, I think that was true. The Sabres were playing dominant. They looked like a team that was better even than the team that had that win streak last year because they were winning games convincingly and doing it going away.
And that was the difference. Was it wasn't just one point games. I remember last year watching a Tampa game in Buffalo in this very room, and Tampa hit the post twice in the last 15 seconds. That's not the case. That wasn't the case with the streak this season. But now it just seems like you have a 10-game streaks where the Sabres are the best team in the league. And now we've had 10-game streaks where the Sabres are the worst team in the league. And it just can never be in the middle. It would be great to have the 9th best team in hockey.
Yeah, I mean, assuming this result holds, and I haven't seen anything that would lead me to believe there's a 3 or 4 goal comeback. They're reviewing the 6th goal for goalie interference right now.
Well, he did push Hutton and then kicked it in. So perhaps we will see this one.
Maybe just a 3-goal game.
Take it off.
What is
Chiarelli did, he definitely pushes.
Yeah, he definitely
and he knocks the net off its moorings in the process.
Needs to be a distinct kicking motion.
No, watch him get into Hutton's pad.
Yeah, so we'll see if this
We'll
gets
see
called.
if it's going to stand
Regardless
because the refs
or not,
hate the Sabres.
it's either 5-2 or 6-2. And so
2 out of 11 or 2 out of 12, I forget which one it is now, that they're going to win, which is just considering they were the
brutal.
best team in the NHL a couple weeks before that trip over to
and
play
the teams,
Tampa.
they've beaten Ottawa and Florida. It's not like we're playing, these world beaters. They were, you're applauding them for being competitive against Boston for a period. I mean, that's where it's at right now. And look, they were not playing the best teams in the league when they were on that winning streak, but man, it felt better. It looked better. Jack Eichel is having one of the best seasons of the Sabres that we've seen in the last, at least definitely in the decade, for sure.
That camera angle's fun.
So imagine if he would shoot the puck more. He needs. I said today on Twitter he needs to shoot the puck a lot more in the power play. I don't know why he's not, but he needs to shoot the puck more. He's got one of the best shots in the league.
He's not interested in shooting.
No goal.
He's trying to make everybody better, and I can't blame the guy for doing it. But I think he's right now at the point where he just feels like he has to do everything. And he's not wrong. He had to score all 4 goals against Ottawa.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to knock that mindset. There was a weekend where he was the only offensive player who worked for the Buffalo Sabres.
Right, and he scored the only goal in Chicago.
And
he had 5 consecutive goals for the Sabres.
And he's up here teeing up one-timers for everyone else on the ice, and it's just... I don't even know what to attribute it to. I think there were so many good things to be said about this hockey team when the season was a few weeks in. It felt like a 4-line hockey team. You had a top line that was doing very well. You had a second line that with Johansson and Skinner looked to be connecting pretty well. You had that fourth line that inexplicably seemed to be working very well, the Larson Jurgensen's opposing line, and then
maybe because they had a fire lit under their ass because they knew that people didn't want them around, so they're just proving that they belong.
Well, whatever it was, they got those guys, and then you had a third line. I mean, Middlestat has been what he is, but Middlestat and Sheary worked pretty well for a couple weeks, and now you look at what's happened since. You've got defensemen playing forward. You've got what? So what is it that you guys think has really caused this downturn? Is it the injuries? Is it lack of secondary scoring? Have people come back to earth a little bit? Is it a lot of things?
I think that's what we need to talk about. Is that there's just, and you know what, Justin, I will give you credit. You were calling this beforehand. I think you're right. They just don't have enough talent from the secondary positions. They have good top line players, and then there's nothing underneath it. And when you have nothing that can be sustained, you're picking guys up like, VC has been an issue. Just there's not any secondary options on this team. It's got to be Eichel, Skinner, Reinhart. That kind of feels like that's about it at this point. Johansson, when he's healthy, maybe. That's about it.
Olsen's been doing a better job finding space to shoot the past couple games, which is nice to see. But I think also...
I'm not too worried about Olsen at this point.
Talent is an issue to me, but I'm not worried about Olsen at all. Talent to me is an issue, but I also think the team is just super mentally weak. I feel like as soon as they face any kind of adversity, they just crumble.
Which is funny because we talked about earlier in the season that they seem to be a lot more mentally tough and been able to deal with things, and that it just seems like they're not able to anymore.
Mental acuity seems to be assigned to whatever is going on with the team. If they're winning, they're mentally tough. If they're not, they're not. And I get weird when I try and discover the psychology of a guy. I can understand what you're saying with it, but I don't necessarily know if they're mentally weak or not. I don't know. That seems like a bit of a leap to me.
Well,
I guess you're saying just when things go bad, they continue to go bad. They have an issue.
They find a hard time getting themselves back into it.
But they were coming. They were down 2 goals a bunch of times during that streak and came back.
Yeah, they were still confident in their gameplay. They lost a few, right. And not good.
So now that the game plan hasn't worked and they're not coming back from those deficits, they're weak.
You're seeing Jack do more by himself. It's just like it's obvious. You can see it. They're just not mentally tough. They literally crumble in front of your eyes. Like,
well, I'll say this: the game on Tuesday against Minnesota, they never showed up. Mm-hmm. It wasn't even like they were there and gone. They let Zach Parise look like he was the Devils version.
I think on a microcosm level of what Justin's saying, a lot of these games, the first bad bounce or thing that doesn't go their way, they might as well just end the game right there and give the other team the 2 points. That's
kind of what I'm saying in a sense.
Yeah. Like that, the second that Middlestat turned the puck over, that game was over. Mm-hmm. Parise skates in and scores, and they never look back. And here tonight, I give them credit. They did a little bit better job of it here tonight because Kucherov scores 13 seconds in. They get a goal from Reinhart. It wasn't really until now in the third period that things are starting to fall apart. But
you have to remember, too, they do lack the talent and the depth at forward, and they're dealing with a lot of injuries at forward right now, which is also a big issue people that aren't really talking about.
And I think it's this weird schedule that they're playing on. Not that it's unusual. You play back-to-backs enough, but, these second half of these back-to-backs, Chicago and tonight in Tampa, they don't show up for them. And it seems like they're never at home for these games either. It seems like they're always on the road on the second half of these back-to-backs, and it really just, their schedule losses, and they're not even bothering really to play a full 60 minutes. And And that's one of the things I think we've been lacking is it's been about a month since I feel like this team's played a complete 60-minute game. Even in the wins, like, you know, they let Ottawa hang around there for a while in the second and third periods. You could kind of feel things kind of going Ottawa's way a little bit, and then Eichel just kind of had one of his most dominant performances to date. So you see this team, and, you know, last night they played really well in Florida, but other than that, it just feels like you're not getting the complete performances.
Now, the good thing is, though, that there's a lot of hockey left. They have 40 games left, 60 games left.
Yeah, I was going to say, they have plenty of time. But
and they are 3 points out of wild card spot. So, I mean, it's not over. I think the injuries are a serious problem right now. They're missing Marcus Johansson, which really messes up them at center. It really fucks them at center. His day-to-day injury is, what now, 2 or 3 weeks now?
It's been dragging on longer and longer. It felt like he was on the cusp of being back when we recorded 2 weeks ago, and now we record here tonight, and he's still not in the lineup. And he was maybe the one guy who was a little bit of an X factor, maybe the one thing that you looked at the depth of this team that wasn't fully accounted for. I think he was a lot better and a lot more impactful than we thought he was going to be coming into the season, and he seemed like he had enough of a connection with Skinner that it made it at least a 2-line team. Mm-hmm. There was a second scoring line because he was so good at zone entries and so good at carrying the puck that there was a guy who wasn't Jack Eichel who you could put on the ice and you could do that with. And now that he's out of the lineup and continues to be out of the lineup, it really turns into you dump it and chasing the puck or Jack's carrying it in because there really isn't another guy on the team right now at forward who is a capable neutral ice puck creator and space creator.
Couple that with the inability to win faceoffs right now. I mean, this was a team that, and we say what you will about faceoffs, you can't lose 60% of them.
Possession is an important part of the game,
and to not even be able to start with possession in a lot of cases, and you're just chasing it. And I think Chad had some good stats about how much more successful this team is when they can carry the puck into the zone versus dumping and chasing. And obviously, you know, there's dump and chase where you're just looking for a line change in other circumstances. But yeah, they're not doing the little things that it seemed like they were successful at and allowing them to at least create opportunities to win.
I would say there's a difference in like dumping and chasing the puck because you're getting new personnel on the ice, you're going for a change,
and that's
versus dumping and chasing because you literally have no other way to try to recollect the puck.
You're just trying to get the puck into the zone,
which really negates a lot of, because at least if you have the ability to carry the puck in, you can kind of pick your spots and pick and choose what's going to breed the personnel, breed the space on the ice, and do what you can do.
Yep.
If you're just going to dump and chase the puck 80% of the time, everyone on the other team is going to be ready for that too.
You know, one good thing is that before he got his face blown in, Darlene's been looking more Darlene-ish the past 3 games. He got benched the one game. If it was at Minnesota?
No.
He got benched for the third period of one of the games recently, and then he came back the next game. They put him in. They started him. He played a lot. He played the most ice time, I think, with them on tour. But he saw improvement. In this game, he saw him a little more confident, and then he was really good in Boston, and he looked really good tonight. He's just doing more of his Darlene stuff. I think his confidence is real shook right now. Once he gets his confidence back, he's going to be A-okay.
And as much as it is a bad situation, they're only 3 games out of a wild card and 2 games out of the division.
That's what I'm saying.
Because I mean, Toronto and Tampa have struggled even. I think the argument can be made even more than what the Sabres have because, you know, Toronto is firing Mike Babcock. They spent the highest contract ever for a coach, and he's gone not quite or just over halfway through it.
No, I was just saying that they're points out, not games out.
Are you more mad as a Toronto fan or Sabres fan? I mean,
Toronto.
Toronto's got John Tavares, Mitch Marner, Austin Matthews.
Yeah, Toronto's got more top end talent, but the thing is, sounds like they handcuffed themselves there by not giving themselves much room to work with, putting anybody around that top end talent.
Yeah, let's talk about Toronto for a second because there's a really interesting story that came out about that team today. I don't know if you guys saw the story about. So apparently back when Marner was a rookie and there were other rookies, Babcock asked the rookies which of their teammates they thought was giving the most and least effort, and then proceeded to tell these teammates in front of the rookies what they said about them. In a complete bizarre power move. This is a thing that happened. It was breaking today on the internet. I guess Sportsnet's been sitting on this for years, not wanting to get into Toronto's bad graces.
Babcock nobody would say anything when he was there, and everybody thinks he's just the biggest prick in the world now that he's gone.
Shout out Mike Commodore, who has been saying that the whole time.
Well,
the only guy.
Mike Commodore is very consistent throughout that. But boy, it does. If you have a young team, it sounds like it would be poison to have Babcock in there. That's why I do think, like the Sharks or maybe the Penguins, somebody's going to fire their coach mid-season and bring in Mike Babcock to spark them. But if you're the Coyotes or the Maple Leafs or any of those teams, like you're not going to do that.
I mean, he might have actually damaged this Leafs team beyond repair.
Why would you drive a wedge between your players like that?
Some guys don't like
That's
coaching young players. Like,
well, and I
Joe
get
Quenneville's one of
that,
them.
and that's fine. But to put the rookies in that's insane.
It's crazy.
No, I did not hear about that.
Who do you think is
believe
giving
that.
effort? That is a stupid thing to
And
say
force them to answer it.
Well, and even then, it's one thing to say and to ask that question. It's another thing to then go to the other players and be like, "Hey, this rookie said you don't work hard."
Holy crap!
Which is apparently what was happening, and they were having at that point still having moderate success in spite of this happening. So you wonder if it's just kind of, I mean, he's doing that. We got the report that he was doing this 3 years ago. He probably didn't just, turn around and was like, okay, well, that was a bad idea. Let's never do that again.
Well, you do wonder, though, if the Toronto media is like, I think it was like the Boston media with the Red Sox, and the media kind of carries the weight a little bit. When the guy's axed, he's completely beheaded on the way out of it. It's interesting, though. It's not Austin Matthews' fault. 30 points already.
He's doing
this
his
year.
damnedest. He's
trying.
a good hockey player.
120 pace.
But you look up and down the lineup outside of that. I mean, he's at 30, then you got Willie Nylander at 19, Marner at 18, and then after that, Johnny Tavares only at 14. You got Riley, who can't play defense, got 17 points as a defenseman, and then the rest of it is 14 or lower.
Well, the thing is, Marner is 18 in 18 games.
Yeah,
and
he had that ankle injury too. Yeah,
14 in 18 games as well. So.
Barry is a mismatch right now. They don't seem to really know how to use him.
The -10.
Thought he was going to be a big. I mean, they don't have a defensive structure. I don't know what it is. We always knew that they wanted to win games 6-4. Like that wasn't a secret. But when you're not scoring the 6, then it gets real ugly real quick.
Yeah, they're losing a lot of these 5-2 games now.
Exactly. Yeah, similar to.
Well, not to look at the scoreboard of the Sabres game right now. They pulled their goalie down 3.5 minutes left. I guess I respect the.
Try it.
Losing by 4, losing by 3. What's the difference?
Doesn't matter at this point. We'll see what comes of it.
If you're going to go for it, go for it.
Yeah, so I mean, the Sabres are in a weird spot. I'm tired of it. I posted something on the Twitter feed a little bit, and it's just after that Minnesota game, I need to have some sort of proof of concept, and I'm just not getting it at this point, and I just don't feel like being fooled over and over again by it. We get these moments of hope, and at some point we can't keep talking about how things were back in 14 and 15. Like, is it team construct? I don't know. They have a lot of defensemen. I mean, I don't even have the energy to make the jokes anymore.
Yeah, I mean, it's the Sabres version of consistently showing Josh Allen and Jim Kelly in the same room, except for the Sabres aren't winning.
Right.
They're trying to
Which
oh
makes
guys,
it
it's
that
our
much
anniversary season. Remember when hockey was fun?
It was, yeah.
How do you talk about? We're consistently playing defenders at forward now because we don't have enough forwards,
And we still haven't gotten a new one.
But they made a big trade last night.
Bogosian, Bogo was on, so they acquired an ECHL defenseman, or no, an AHL defenseman that they
Which
sent to the
doesn't
ECHL.
really make sense.
Yeah, you got Bogosian. We've seen Gilmore played against Minnesota.
Montour looked pretty good there yesterday.
Montour, right.
He played well.
So this is, but okay, so this is it now? We're going 4 games into this experiment? What are you doing?
I've been thinking. Go ahead, Mike.
I'm wondering how much Botterill is looking for a forward, and I'm wondering if just he's thinking the price is too high. But they're at the point where you kind of have to overpay. I mean, for to bring somebody into Buffalo, no matter what. I mean, they got lucky with Skinner, but for the most part, to bring anybody here, you're going to have to overpay. You're going to have to either overpay or develop somebody or get lucky and catch lightning in the bottle like they did back in 05, 06, 06, 07. I mean, there's no other way around it. This is not a destination. This is not going to be somewhere where it's going to be easy to convince somebody to come. until you get a winning tradition, but you're not going to get much of a winning tradition until you get some players who can actually put together games and get wins.
I mean, thank God for Botterill that Yoki Haru was turned out to be really good. Because think about it, they traded a skilled defensive forward for a defender that we had too many of. How much worse it would have looked for Botterill. I mean, he's not lighting it up in Chicago, but he's what his
But
team
he is a
lacks
forward.
now. He's a skilled. He has skill.
He plays the F.
He's a winger, and the Sabres are lacking wingers, and especially lacking skilled wingers.
They've lacked wingers for a decade.
As I stated on this podcast last week, just get me a forward. I don't care who he is. I don't care how good he is. I don't care if you overpay for him. Bring me a forward and play him at forward. I can't believe we're still a week after. Like you said, I can't believe we're a week after this. And they are still only 11 healthy forwards in the entire organization. Other teams have injuries. Other teams have issues. This does not happen to other hockey teams.
I've never seen it.
I've never seen an NHL team consciously play a defenseman at forward for 4 consecutive games.
And rotate the defenseman.
Yeah, and not even just one guy. It's not even just like playing Brent Burns one way or the other. It's literally playing 4 different defensemen because none of them are really forwards or good at it.
None of them are good enough. So now you're just rotating these. I mean,
Okay, who was the fourth one? I remember Gilmore. Okay, Gilmore, Bogosian, Montour, and who was the other one?
I think they had 12 forwards that other game because they called up Asplund.
and that was the one where everybody got hurt, right? It was the Boston game. I could have sworn something. Maybe not. I don't know. Maybe I'm just.
The thing is, too,
thinking
the person who I think would be most successful at forward would be Rasmus Dahlin.
Yeah.
You can't do that.
He's not playing great defensively. Give it a go. I mean, what the hell is the difference in putting fucking Zach Bogosian at forward? Well,
The difference is they trust Dahlin more than Bogosian defensively, I think.
And
I don't think that's
part
the
of the
case.
issue with this is the game. I mean, this team is capped out. That's the part. Too.
it's the craziest thing, though. That's why I see something like this.
They can't sign a guy for $1.5 million.
The last time I
right
seen
now.
anything closest to this was back when the Devils handcuffed themselves with the Kovalchuk contract when they were dressing like 17, 16 skaters a game because they couldn't afford cap-wise to ice a full lineup because they paid Kovalchuk too much money.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
I mean, this is literally the regular season equivalent of having to play Nathan Pache, Rory Fitzpatrick, Jeff Gilson, and Doug Janik at defense.
And we hated to see that.
And we hated to see that, too.
Oh,
This
boy.
is just...
damn it, Rory.
There's really not much else to say right now. It's hard to even give a fair evaluation because they're not putting out a real team.
Dude,
Right?
no, it's crazy.
It is. It's
Yeah,
absolutely
and
nuts.
NHL
Like-
20 wouldn't let me put this roster in a real game.
No.
I feel
Decline.
like I've been thinking about this lately. It might be early to think this, but it's like you got to wonder if Ralph Kruger's sitting here, I can't even get an actual fucking lineup. Do you think he thinks about resigning at the end of the season?
No.
Like,
I don't think so.
I don't know.
I think things ended so poorly in Edmonton that he wants
Another chance.
multiple years
But
because he got one strike shortened year and got fired.
Well, it sounds like he made a difficult decision to leave soccer to come to America to do hockey.
It would have been easy for him to stay over
and he
there and keep
carefully
doing that.
chose, it seems like, and it'd be easy for him to go back and probably make more money.
Well, to be fair, Southampton's probably getting relegated this year, so maybe it wasn't quite as difficult a decision as he thought it was. But
Sabres might get
they are-
relegated too. They may be the first ones.
well, possibly. They may go down to the ECHL, but
Last place team moves to Seattle.
I think, yeah, exactly. I think he would stay. There's no reason to ship him out. I think he had to be given some sort of consideration, given how things went in Edmonton, whatever it was, 7-8 years
I don't
ago,
think ship
whatever
him
the
out.
first
Saying
one.
he
did.
resigns. Like they go,
I
fuck
just
this, I'm
no.
done.
No, I don't think he
Let
would
me put it this way:
he would not quit.
Ralph Kruger will be coaching the Sabres at this time next season. I don't think there's,
If we gave...
barring some sort of personal revelation that something occurred.
If we gave
illegally.
Phil Housley all that time, there's no way they're going to get rid of Ralph Kruger this fast.
I'm not saying them get rid of him.
I don't think he'll leave.
Not that I'm saying that at all. I'm saying him decide him, Mike Malarkey, and us.
I don't think he's going to do that.
And there's nowhere
Doug
else.
Marone
He won't go. Well, St. Doug is a whole different case.
Just
May he
because
rest in peace.
Then too,
It's a random thought.
and I think you got to even give him at least into the third season because otherwise you're looking at 3 consecutive coaches that would have been 2 and out.
Yeah.
I'm just
You
getting
can't
worried
do
about
that.
this. Like the team, like I'm a huge Sabres fan. I'm getting literally just like worried about the state of the team. Like at what point does Jack say, "Fuck this, trade me"? At what point does the coach say, "I'm out. I'm going back to the UK to do soccer"? Like it's that bad. I feel like in the locker room, the media. I just feel like it's just my general feeling.
Yeah, the player departure comments are certainly concerning. I guess it's one thing you can say like, oh well, O'Reilly didn't get along with, as I say here wearing my Ryan O'Reilly shirt. O'Reilly didn't get along with Jack, and he just O'Reilly's the problem. And then the more and more play, but is it just O'Reilly, or is it O'Reilly and Leonard and Boyu and all these players the problem?
Is it Eichel?
Or is it Eichel?
I mean, that's the one thing that I never.
Or is it just here?
In all seriousness, that's the one thing I never hear considered. Maybe it's Jack Eichel. Has it been considered? Because the franchise did bend over backwards to get him. They were bringing in all of his former college teammates to come in. They were doing everything they could to center it, and Eichel has been one of the constants through all of this. Yet, I know he's good on the ice. It sure seems like there's some issues in that locker room, and now that he's in his second year as captain, you're telling me that he is just completely free of any blame on this?
I think the only reason I wouldn't hop to him, maybe he's part of causing the atmosphere of the room.
I'm not disparaging him on the ice.
No, I
think
he might have something to do with
difference.
the locker room atmosphere. I just think that if he was the main problem, I don't think that someone would have had a problem burying him on the way out. Like if O'Reilly and Leonard will go to the media and be like, everything about Buffalo, the players, the coaches, the fans, the atmosphere, the ownership, all that was a problem, but not even be like, not even just like veil it as team leadership. I would think that Jack is far enough down the list of things that were causing issues that I wouldn't worry about him until everything else was fixed.
I don't think it's a Jack thing in a locker room. I feel like it's a very young team. I think they're still very immature, maybe off the ice wise. Like they're all very, very young. Middlestat, Eichel is young. Reinhardt's very young.
I mean, we saw with Kane when he was here.
They're all like, I mean, this is a dumb take, but like, for example, they did that video with Darlene last season, and he walks into the room and Middlestat says they're playing Fortnite. Like, maybe they're not all taking it seriously at this point. They're so young still.
Yeah, maybe. I just then.
It is so. I think we're kind of grabbing at straws here.
We are. Because we're frustrating. We just watched them almost give up 3 shorthanded goals.
We're picking at straws because it's been so long. We've tried all the normal fixes. We've got literally in the time that it's been since the Sabres made the playoffs, we have had new ownership, new general managers, multiple new coaches, an entire tank for a top draft pick, multiple new captains. Like literally, we've changed absolutely everything except for that they play in Buffalo and wear blue and gold.
I said to you guys in the Slack chat that I think like maybe the Pagulas are meddling too much. You saw that those Nathan Boyu comments. He says you saw what Ryan said. They don't like it. They traded him. But you see Ryan Risto, who's been saying almost the same things and wants to get out of here publicly, and he's still here. Like I feel like the Pagulas got pissed off. He said that and said trade him when they should have just made him stay here. Because how much better would this team be with Jack and O'Reilly as opposed to Jack and Johansson, who plays second, maybe third line, and all the positions. Who knows? Like I don't know.
I mean, have fun trying to get this team under the salary cap with O'Reilly's contract. I think is another issue too, because Jeff Skinner's not here if Ryan O'Reilly's here. That's for sure.
Yeah, that's true. I just think the Pagulas. It signs to me. To me, it seems like there are signs that Pagulas meddling too much. They need to let the team do what they got to do.
I might be the weird one in the case that, like, if Ryan O'Reilly doesn't want to be here, that's his decision. And I don't want players on my team who are, like, dreading waking up and going to play for me in the morning. Now, does that mean you have to rush him out the door and you don't wait for maybe a really good deal you can get for a really good player? Maybe you don't have to rush him. But if he doesn't want to be here, or same token, if Risto doesn't want to be here, then okay.
But if you got a player saying that,
but the market for O'Reilly is probably a lot bigger than the market for Risto, which is probably why he wasn't traded immediately.
Mm-hmm. But if you have a player saying they don't want to be somewhere, that will drive their trade value down. No matter how good the player is, you're kind of as an owner or GM, whatever, you're in a position where you kind of have to move them if they don't want to be there. So it drives the market value for them down.
And Conn Smythe O'Reilly was never showing up here. I'm convinced of that. I don't think that's happening.
I agree with that.
O'Reilly never said he didn't want to be here. He said he fell out of love with the game at a point.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really nice way of saying that he doesn't want to be here.
That's why I say
O'Reilly. You haven't seen it since then. He hasn't been talking about waking up sad every morning since then.
See, that's why when I talk about O'Reilly, I say that he potentially didn't want to be here because I'm not trying to make it a definite statement, but that's what it sounds like to me is he didn't want to be here.
It's a dreadful place to be in that locker room. I feel like sometimes, like you saw the other day, Robin Letter, 2 seasons removed, taking a shot at Mike Harrington, like out of left field. Like, this is obviously.
Well, that's because the main media here is miserable too. They drag all
Just
their shit in
imagine
the
being on
locker
a
room.
team that is that bad, and every day you have to go back into the locker room and have Mike Carrington criticize you for not winning a shootout.
Remember we had Cooper on the show about a year or two ago, and he kind of made a comment about the locker room being weird.
Yeah.
That was the first time we kind of heard of that.
I mean, that dude would know way more than even we would, for sure, because he's
been
a
in locker
very well
rooms.
connected. He's been in very many locker rooms, and we got to dig that out and put it back somewhere in one of our show, either this week's show or next
see
week's
if I
show, or
can
something
find
if you
it.
can find it.
If I can
Because
find it, I'll put it right here.
Nailed it right on the head. Just kind of how the weirdness is, and it really hasn't changed. Whatever he was saying about it then feels like it hasn't changed. If anything, it's gotten worse and weirder. And it's a young team that's learning from a new coach. It's okay to have growing pains, but the way that they're going about it, it is just tough to watch. And it's tougher to watch because, and what you mentioned in points in your speech too, and your post on Twitter here this week, it's because it's been so long and we've tried so many things, and it's like, at what point does it you just get tired of it? You just, all the interest and it gets sapped out of you.
They've gone the free agent route. They've gone the tanking route. They've gone the, big trade route. Like, just, I don't know what else to do at this point. I think that you're a team that is, when guys have no movement clauses, Buffalo is often on it. It's a place that we always love the guys that say that they love it, but it takes a lot to get a guy to come here. You have to overpay. There's a Buffalo tax that you have to pay to get a guy to come here. It's like us and Winnipeg and Calgary and Edmonton are just
the players poll.
Tough market. Ottawa, they're tough markets to convince players to come to.
Now, I don't see why Edmonton would be a tough sell at this point. Having McDavid, you would think you would want to be able to play with one of the, especially since you've got McDavid, Draisaitl. They, for a few years, were making the playoffs.
Yeah, well,
you would think that would
one out
help
of
them.
4 years, and they had to, Milan Lucic was one of their top wings.
McDavid dragged them kicking and screaming into those playoffs.
Yeah, it wasn't McDavid's fault, but McDavid is more of a draw than playing with Jack Eichel is at this point, right?
Yeah.
By a lot. Jeff Skinner kind of, Skinner got a little extra to stay, I think. Does he take that? Does he need that extra million?
I think he would have got more
top?
in free agency, to be honest with you.
What's that?
I think he would have got more in free agency.
Maybe.
40-goal season, he would have got paid.
Yeah. Well, we'll never know, but
We'll never know.
it is, we've gone all these routes, and now then everything gets reset next year. So hopefully you find the magic fairy dust and everybody comes in because all that cap space gets cleared out. But
if you need proof, look at three of the players that are on this year's current roster with Eichel, Okposo, and Skinner. One of each type of acquisition.
yeah,
I guess you're. I like the way Tim Murray built the team, though. He really tried to accelerate the rebuild. We're not really missing a ton of the pieces that he traded. Only Comfer is not phenomenal in Colorado by any means. Claude Lemieux. Brendan Lemieux didn't want to be here, and he's just a goon. He's not anything special. At least he went out. Like, those places, those trades were great at the time. Like Ryan O'Reilly, Vander Kane. Like, those are good trades.
Yeah.
In hindsight, Ryan O'Reilly ended up not wanting to be here. You couldn't afford to keep Kane.
yeah. It's just 2 years ago or 3 years ago, the Athletics said we had the best farm system in the league. And what happened to that?
I don't know. All I know is we literally don't have a forward in Rochester right now.
Well, he didn't trade a ton of prospects at forward. He
No,
traded
I get that,
McNabb.
but I think a lot of these prospects that they had, or we were talking about, just
They're all
haven't
up
come to
here and not
fruition.
All of them were
anything.
misses, except for maybe Olofsson.
Yeah,
Who knows?
it's tough.
It's crazy.
It's
so
depressing to talk
frustrating.
about this team.
Yeah, I don't even know
Yeah.
what to say anymore.
We'll talk about it next week. See how it goes.
Yeah, I mean,
Happy Thanksgiving.
Maybe they'll have 12 forwards by then, God willing.
Maybe, or maybe these things just keep going on. It is concerning that these guys aren't even back on the ice. I don't know.
No,
And now you may have just lost out for multiple games.
I have a weird thing that ties in with the Sabres. Doesn't it feel like the Sabres players always take way longer to get healthy and get injured way more often than players on other teams?
The two spots that you can
Yeah.
you can create a great training staff and a great support staff, and there's no cap on that. And I will never understand why professional sports franchises don't invest more in that.
I always heard about the Coolers hiring a bunch of crazy coaches. Like I heard that they
Didn't that happen with the Bills a few years back? They had like a really bizarre training staff issue. I might be completely misremembering this, but I vaguely remember the Bills having a similar thing where like there was a guy on the staff who was like a complete quack.
Could be. What were you saying, Justin?
I think they said. I know the Coolers try to put every resource available to these players and make them a good team. I almost feel like if there's too much. I've read stories about them having like sleep coaches and like general like life coaches and shit like that. Like too many coaches, too much is like let them go out there.
But I have heard I've heard about the like sleeping is kind of like the next. How do I sound not crazy when saying this? Like sleeping is the next frontier. Like
Sleeping's
LeBron
great.
James knows that he needs to get a minimum 8 hours every night. Like there is something that you are a more productive human being in whatever field you choose when you sleep for 8 hours versus sleeping for 4 hours or whatever the case may be, right? So I think that there is room for that. I guess my biggest thing is like I think back to, and this is a basketball reference, so who knows how many people even care about this, but for years and years and years, the Phoenix Suns in the NBA always seem to be able to rehab guys quicker and have less injuries occur. And it was because they had the best training staff. And they were able to keep the training staff, and then they got a new owner a few years ago, and they let those guys go, and then the Suns haven't been to the playoffs basically almost in a decade. So those are the sort of things where if you are one of the richer owners in the NHL, like the Pagulas are, that you need to kind of look at it and say, where can you fill in the margins where you can not only get great help, but you can get like superior help? Where can you truly make a difference with coaching staffs, with training, nutrition?
All these uncapped areas where you can spend anything you want on it.
Because you can only spend so much on the ice, but everywhere else you can put resources toward.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Maybe the Sabres never that good this season. They started out playing Columbus, the Devils, blah blah blah. Kind of like the Bills. Started off 4-0
Look at that.
against
3-0.
average, mediocre, below average talent. I think I finally may have turned my thought on the Bills a little bit here. I looked at the standings for the first time in a long time, and they're 8-3, and I was like, "Wow, the Bills are 8-3. It's pretty cool." Like,
Yeah,
I think I was probably happy about it.
that's neat.
And the last
You like to see it.
I don't think I've ever seen it.
Hasn't happened since 96.
1996.
Yeah, I mean,
I was 14.
Jeff couldn't read.
I was 5. I could read a little bit.
Humble brag. 5-year-olds reading. Yeah, no, it has been basically a generation since this has happened. 23 years. And there are a lot of things to not like about and like long-term thinking, but there does come a point where you just gotta be like, they're 8-3. They are probably 2 wins away from clinching a playoff spot, and their first 10-win season of the millennium.
I didn't feel very good about this Cowboys game a couple weeks ago, but they've won the games they're supposed to win the past few weeks, and it's turned this Cowboys game into a low risk, high reward game.
Not only have they won the last games they're supposed to win lately, they've done it in the way they're supposed to. The last 2 games have not been close.
Yeah, well, let's not give them the kind of credit that we gave them for the Dolphins game. I think the Dolphins game was legitimately not close. The Broncos game was not close at the end, but at halftime, what had this team accomplished? They were lucky that they were playing the Denver Broncos on Sunday because all they got to show for it was 2 field goals on 2 red zone trips, and luckily for them, Brandon Allen was the opposing quarterback because if they're playing that kind of game against Dallas on Thursday, I would be very concerned that they are down 2 scores going into halftime.
But
I know they're not. You play the team that you're playing, but
right. The Broncos have so mismanaged their quarterback situation.
It's impressive.
They waste the best, one of, I don't know what, the 5 best defensive players in football in Von Miller. And, Bradley Chubb's out, so I guess there's something to be said to that. But, yeah, like, they're 8-3. I thought it was a pretty good performance. Josh Allen completed a pass in the air over 30 yards. Just confetti everywhere.
Really, really nice throw, though.
He did, yeah. It was good. It was a really good throw. He's QBR,
That 30-yard catch and run to Beasley early in the game, beautiful throw.
The Beasley one, I mean, the Brown strike is, maybe his best throw of the season.
Felt nice to see him make one downfield for sure.
Yeah.
Right. Like, that's what I'm saying.
Well,
I mean,
the Brown throw was nice. The throw to Beasley, the touchdown pass to Beasley, that was very nice.
He's had a good throw. I mean, yes, he's had good throws to, like,
Pick was
Knox this
bad.
year, too. The
Pick was not good.
pick was...
Yeah,
Kerry
that
Hicks,
was-
sorry.
No, the pick was really bad. The pick was... I mean, we were talking
That's
about
understating it.
That
Very bad.
is what you can't do. But he did bounce back from it. So,
Yeah,
and he had
yeah.
another nice game on the ground, too. Like,
was-
he's always contributing 40 to 60 yards on the ground. And
That movie made to get away from Vaughn on the one play that I saw on Twitter today was incredible.
like, yes, I wanted to touch on. I thought that first drive was really impressive. The way they were just going, I think it was 14 plays or something like that. And yes, again, I know it was only a field goal, but it was going to be a lower possession game. The Broncos are not very good, but their defense is pretty good. So they were able to play a fairly conservative game. They didn't really need to stretch themselves too much, but that's okay. And if we are to be believed what we've been told, and that Dable is individually planning for each opponent, and he's not, necessarily a slave to a system, then yesterday was an example of that. Also, funniest comment I've heard all season from an announcer saying that Frank Gore is a first name only running back when it comes to the pantheon of Emmett, Walter, Barry, and Frank.
I don't agree with that.
And I said, I don't think that's quite right, but I'm very happy for Frank Gore. Congratulations, Frank.
Well, if you can't have 1,000 5-yard rushes, you better be sure to have 5,000 1-yard rushes.
Death by 1,000 paper
I've
cuts.
always said about
Rather
Frank
than the
Gore.
nuclear weapon.
If it's 3rd and 1 and you need 1 yard, he's going to get you 3 yards.
Yeah.
It's 1st and 10, you need 10 yards, he's going to get you 3 yards. He's just very consistent.
Here it is. You take it. They did not stop the game, which was very weird. They then
It felt weird they didn't, yeah.
And then they immediately ran him the next play. Like, come on, didn't pull him out.
Well, it's funny because I was listening on the radio at the point, like the previous play. I was just pulling into my the parking lot of my apartment complex when he had the previous carry where he got knocked back for 2 yards. You could tell that John Murphy and Eric Wood were all ready to go for it. It's like, he's back 3 yards away now. All right, moving on.
Or as John Murphy calls it, 3 yards.
Good for Frank Gore, and it does feel like they finally figured out the right way to handle the running back carry split. Singletary gets his first career 100-yard game yesterday. He's still over 5 yards of carry on the season. He has been very good. And then there's still a place for Gore for sure in the offense, and it's doing exactly what it is. It's to be the human battering ram.
He's the battering ram. Give him, 8 touches a game or so. It's fine.
Yeah.
I still think it's dumb to pay running backs. It's fine.
It was good to have him in
Frank
the end
Gore
of the game.
is one of the few guys where I'm like, all right, this is fine.
I'll give Gore 8 to 10 if you give Singletary 20 or so.
Yep, that's fair. Maybe a little bit more if he gets involved in the passing game a little bit, but that's...
I'd like to see Singletary, especially in the screen game.
Yeah, they could. It feels like they really could use the screen game a little bit more. It's been successful when they've gone to it. Maybe they don't want to crutch too heavily on it, but Singletary had a couple really nice plays like that in the preseason or in the early season too, when he was very well utilized in the short passing game.
Yeah.
I wonder if they're not showing all their cards yet.
Well, you can only hold on to him for so long.
Well, you've got 4 games coming up where you're going to probably need to dig very deep into your playbook to come up with something. I mean, especially since you've got Dallas, Baltimore, and New England in that stretch.
Yeah.
Yeah, Baltimore is...
I think Baltimore may be the team to beat this year.
Is it weird not to be impressed with the Patriots? Like, I watched almost all of the Patriots-Cowboys game yesterday, and they won, and their defense is great.
They're not impressive, but they're going to just beat you. I mean, Gilmore shut down Amari Cooper yesterday.
Yeah.
The league did have to apologize for the tripping call, or
It's terrible.
not tripping call. So they do get some breaks here and there, but defense is really good, man. And then if you're Jason Garrett and you decide to kick a field goal down 7,
Well, yeah,
in
he did that to
scenario,
himself for sure.
then you deserve exactly what you get, man. I have no sympathy for you.
Fortune favors the bold, as they say.
And Jason Garrett is a very meager robot at this point.
He's just on the sideline. Who do you think claps more on Thursday, Jason Garrett or Sean McDermott?
Oh boy. Well, I mean, the Clapper nickname started with Jason Garrett. I heard that.
Yeah, he's the OG.
He's the OG, yeah. I don't know. But I'm more, like you said, Justin, it's a low, well, is it a low risk game or not? I don't know.
Well, it's a game they're expected to lose, and it's a game they don't really need to win right now. It'd be great if they win it. They look amazing
Road
on
game
national
out
TV.
of conference, yeah.
It's a statement win. But if they lose it, they lose it.
It doesn't. If they lose it, the only thing it does is put an L in the loss column, and it doesn't really affect tiebreakers.
But them winning the games they had to win recently makes them not need to win.
The Cleveland game is the only one.
And if they win it,
like,
if they win it, it just helps their chances so much more to get
So
in the playoffs.
they got a lot of weird stuff that happened yesterday. If Cincinnati had finished off Pittsburgh, that would have been the weirdest. But the Jets killing Oakland. You have Tennessee, who you have the tiebreaker over, essentially eliminating Jacksonville. So that's another
Now,
team
Pittsburgh
that
and
you can
Cleveland
have-
play each other again this week, and there are two
Pittsburgh-
teams that are chasing you.
And we know that could be weird.
Could literally be a bloodbath.
And quite literally, just swinging. And we may have a professional duck caller playing quarterback for Pittsburgh, which would be neat.
He was way better. Mason Rudolph. Remember when Mason Rudolph was better than Josh Allen for a week? That was a take.
Fun. The Colts are struggling right now. I mean, there's a lot of weird stuff happening in the AFC, and they are 2 games clear of
Everyone.
4 different teams right now. The Raiders, the Colts, the Steelers, and the Titans are all at 6-5, and the Bills are at 8-3, in good shape.
I mean, it really comes down to, if you're Buffalo, you have to win your remaining your 2 easiest games. You have to beat Pittsburgh. You have to beat the Jets.
Right. So you have Pitt. See now, so there's this 4-game stretch that we're coming up on. Cowboys, Ravens, Steelers, Patriots. You have to go 1-3. If you can go 2-2, I think you put yourself in the playoffs.
Yeah, if you're 10-5 going into a game with the Jets, you probably already clinch a wild card.
Yeah,
at
if
that
you
point.
because Tennessee, if the Bills go 2-3, the last 5 games, Tennessee has to run the table to even have a chance. I think, I think everybody kind of almost has to run the table to have a chance to catch up with the Bills.
Thank God we saw Marcus Mariota and not Ryan Tannehill. Ryan Tannehill looks great.
I think Mariota might just be that bad at this point.
I love the guy coming out of college. I was dead wrong on him. I think Tannehill looks awesome. And how, if you're a Titan, do you not re-sign Ryan Tannehill and let Mariota rock?
I think you have to re-sign Tannehill.
Yeah.
Mariota, I think, is an interesting, not to get really off topic here. Mariota is an interesting case study in good player, wrong system.
Yeah.
Because he goes to Tennessee, where they just want to bludgeon Derrick Henry at you over and over again with Mike Mularkey, who's scared to do anything outside the box. I just sit here and I imagine Marcus Mariota being coached by Andy Reid.
Yeah.
And I think that there was a lot more there. Mm-hmm. And maybe he gets to leave in free agency and he goes to another system and gets to be the 15th best quarterback in the NFL, and maybe that's the ceiling. But I don't know. I don't think he's quite as bad as some other quarterbacks who are going to get chances because they're in the right situation.
It feels like there's something to salvage.
Yeah.
I'm really interested to see how they look against the Ravens.
I'm not. I think they're going to get murdered.
The Ravens are stampeding over the Rams right
I'm
now.
not.
How efficient is this? Look at the stats in this game
It's
right now.
incredible.
Has he missed a pass yet?
Lamar Jackson's 11-13 and 4 touchdowns.
Yes.
He was 9 of 9 at halftime.
That is the definition of efficiency.
No, it is. You want to talk about the exotic smash mouth that we talked about and think about what could have happened if things weren't tinkered with good running pieces. Greg Roman is the coordinator of the year. John Harbaugh is the coach of the year. I don't care what happens. What they have done to build around Lamar Jackson, a quirky quarterback, a non-traditional quarterback, they have gone all in, and they're also like 60% on 4th down. They're going for it more than any team. The Ravens, and this kills me to say this, the Ravens are the most fun team in the NFL to watch.
By a lot.
And because they have that killer defense complemented with just it is an offense that we have not seen in the NFL.
They built the Kansas City Chiefs with a better running game.
Well, they built the Kansas City Chiefs where the run is the pass.
Right.
It is.
Well, you have Mark Ingram instead of, and the fact that Mark Andrews has come around and been like a great tight end. You have Hollywood Brown, who had 2 touchdowns in the first quarter tonight. Right. And that game's, you mentioned the 4th down. It's funny because they had a 4th and 1 early in the game. A lot of coaches would have kicked a field goal, made it 10-0. Rams go back on the field, go right back out there, and they immediately score a touchdown, 14-0. Never look.
They have a 25-year-old statistics major that is what is that what you're about to pull up?
I was trying to find it. Yeah.
So they have a 25-year-old
on the sideline
that's telling in real time to John Harbaugh what the odds are on each play.
This guy's on the sideline telling Harbaugh.
We were just talking about using your resources in ways that can give you an advantage. That's how you do it.
That is next level. That's probably going to be the next.
Though.
But
it is.
Well,
Yeah. But it's insane that other people don't do it, because literally anyone who's sitting at home, when you're watching a football game at home, if you follow the right people, you can find any number of guys on the internet who are like, well, teams that go for it on 4th and 2 here have a 75% chance of converting it while the coach is punting from the other team's 35-yard line. The fact that other teams don't have a guy like this.
And John Harbaugh has been doing this since the mid-2000s. He's the second longest tenured head coach, third longest tenured head coach behind Bill Belichick, and I believe Mike Tomlin was there before. Maybe he's longer. I don't know.
I think Tomlin was there first, but yeah.
If you're head coach, what number do you got to see to go for it on 4th down? 50%? Just random question.
But it's
where
on the field?
Right. Huh? It's where on the field, but it is probability. It's not just understanding, like, thinking of things linearly. Like, you have to think, even though you may not get it this time, you had better odds to get it than not. Like, it's thinking that we don't necessarily, like, I'm just trying to think of, like, picture, like last year, like a guy like Mike McCarthy being told about, like, real-time statistical odds and just him just sort of standing there. But think about Mike Mularkey doing that.
Mike Mularkey would have had Aaron Rodgers pooch punt on 3rd down rather than go for it on 4th and 1.
To John Harbaugh's credit, it takes a lot of courage in the it shouldn't, but it takes a lot of courage in the NFL for a guy that's been doing that for that long to admit that maybe he doesn't know all the answers and hasn't seen every situation there is, and to have someone like that, I just my hat's off to the Ravens because they're figuring out. And they may not win. They may not win this all, but my God, it's a lot of fun to think about.
How much of it do you think is they have the confidence to say, okay, we're going to go up to this, we're going to have a statistics major or whatever you said he was. How much confidence do you think it is the fact that your quarterback is basically a game changer himself?
Well, he
is probably the best so far from what I've seen and what I can remember of the quote unquote running quarterbacks, because he can do both aspects, running and throwing, very well.
Yeah,
he was the best running quarterback since Mike Vick.
And we saw him.
I think he's even better than. I think he's better than Vic.
He's Vic evolved, no doubt.
Yeah.
But there are guys like Cam Newton was Vic evolved, although Cam Newton was more of a physical runner. And this is why, like, and we see, hey, Josh Allen is getting, like we said, he's consistently getting those running yards right now, but it is really rough to see what could have been. But again, the Bills are 8-3. We have to accept that. It's pretty cool to think that they're 8-3. And even though we're talking about the Ravens because we're seeing the Ravens put up 35 points on the defending NFC champions and
a defense with Jalen Ramsey and Aaron Donald and superstars.
Oh, Rams are done after this. Yeah, they're toast.
So, question for those in the room, because I'm curious. Assuming that the Buffalo Bills are not in the Super Bowl, which they can make the playoffs easily and easily be in the Super Bowl at this rate. Who knows? What is your ideal Super Bowl matchup if the Bills aren't in it?
I mean, from the AFC, it would obviously be the Ravens. I would say second place would be the Chiefs. And then in the NFC, I mean, the 49ers are really interesting. Or I would like to see maybe Drew Brees get one more shot at it. So I would probably say the 49ers and the Saints. So some permutation of those four teams, I think, would be a lot of fun.
I'd like to see Ravens versus the Seahawks.
I think Wilson versus Jackson and those offenses are really interesting.
Yeah, that would definitely be fun to.
I'm all in for Harbaugh too. I know that one Harbaugh isn't there anymore, but
I think
that defensive line versus Lamar would be a lot of fun.
The Niners and Ravens could be fun, but I hate when you watch Super Bowl where it's like this great offense and this great defense, and then defense dominates the offense, and it's a boring Super Bowl.
Like Broncos versus the Panthers, we saw it. Seahawks versus the Broncos in
Pats
48.
Versus, what happened?
Pats versus
Rams.
the Rams. Yeah, no.
My only regret is that Kansas City and Baltimore are in the same conference and they can't play each other in the Super Bowl because that would be the perfect game.
They may be playing each other in the second round this year. If projections go the way they should, they could. So
I think it goes to show the relative strength of conferences too. Is like when you think of the AFC, like, well, the exciting teams are one, maybe two. You look at the NFC standings, man, there's a lot of fun teams in the NFC.
It is really funny to think like you think of the dude looking at the girl meme, and you just see it's like Ravens and Chiefs have just reversed roles.
Yeah.
And the Chiefs have faced a lot of injuries this year, but they're still really good. And it's weird that we have this really late bye week where, these good teams in week 12, like Minnesota and Kansas City, are sitting out. And, and now we're going to Thanksgiving. It just feels like weird to have a team coming off of byes going to the week of Thanksgiving.
I hope the Bills make the playoffs again. I mean, the playoffs are fun. I was so excited to watch that game, and they just stunk on ice. But can you imagine they go to the playoffs? Like, all you gotta do is get to the dance.
Yeah,
like you never know what's gonna happen in this league. But could you imagine the Bills Niners Super Bowl? The Niners would just dominate that Bills.
Yeah, that would be terrible.
That would have been a dream Super Bowl back in the 90s.
I would absolutely take, if the Bills can win 3 games against in the same conference as Kansas City, New England, and Baltimore. I don't care what they do. I really don't care what.
And those would probably be the 3 teams that they'd have to beat to get in that order.
I guess, yeah. Right now, Kansas City and that AFC West is the 4th seed.
Kansas City would be who the Bills would face if the playoffs started today.
I could see them catching Houston if Houston loses to New England, but
sure,
we'll see.
But it would be. There would be matchups where the Bills would look completely outclassed on paper. I just, like you said though, just get me there. That Cardinals team that made the Super Bowl.
The Giants both times.
The Giants both times. The Steelers and the Packers each won it as 6 seeds. Like, just get in and let's figure it out.
Seattle is that 7-9 team that
Beastquake game
stampeded over New Orleans. That
greatest run in postseason history. That Lynch run.
It was voted by NFL on NFL 100. Their 100 greatest runs, the best run in NFL history.
I'll never forget watching the Sunday Night Football game. It was to close out the season. It was the 6-9 Rams at the 6-9 Seahawks. The winner
for the division
was going to face the 12-4 or 11-5, whatever they were, Saints, seeming like not even a matchup. Mark Sanchez made 2 AFC Championship games. I mean, things can happen, and but you can allow yourself to become a fan, and then you can allow yourself to really let go if you can get to that point. Just get me in, and then we can talk about it, and then I can be more irrational. And I can kind of let my heart follow me. I just, follow what I'm thinking. But for right now, I think they're pretty close. I think they're going to face an angry Cowboys team on Thursday, but an embattled team. I mean, they could fire Jason Garrett after Thanksgiving with a poor performance. And the Bills have a defense that's capable of putting up a poor performance. Is Amari Cooper not going to catch a pass for the second straight week? Probably not. But Trey White is one of, he's 98% of what Gilmore is.
I think the Bills win Thursday. Garrett's definitely fired. I think the reason he's not fired right now is because they don't want to go into the Thanksgiving with the narrative of being Garrett fired and blah blah blah.
The funny thing is, isn't Dallas leading the NFC East right now?
Yeah, we have the NFC standings up right now. I can see 6 teams from where we are, and the Cowboys, who are currently leading their division, are not in the top 6 teams in that conference. You've got the Packers and the Vikings in the North. You've got the Seahawks and the Niners in the West. And then here's the NFC East. And I just checked to see if Philly and Dallas played each other week 17 to create the same scenario. They play each other week 16, unfortunately. Dallas plays the Redskins week 17.
Boy, I sure hope we get an NFC East matchup to finish off the regular season.
Oh, you know that we will.
The only thing that bothers me about this game Thursday is like Zeke should embarrass the Bills.
And Pollard's pretty good too now.
Huh?
That backup they have too is Pollard is running really well.
Yeah,
I know there's not much to say about it. The running defense has been better.
They've been better.
Philip Lindsay seemed to be hurting them yesterday through the air more than on the ground. And I know the Dolphins are like one of the worst teams in the modern era of running. So I get that. It will be a test because now you're facing one of the top 6 or 7 running backs in the game.
It felt like Ed Oliver has come around really nicely too these last
looking
3 or 4
better.
games.
I would say last 3 games he's
people
were
pretty
better.
quick to label him as overrated, and he has settled in very nicely to all that line.
Might get a nice find this week. A dumb hit. Very dumb hit.
That was stupid.
It's a lesson to learn for a young player, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody's seen this, just out of curiosity. What do you think the line is this week? Bills at Cowboys.
I've seen it, so I won't mark it.
Justin, what do you think, guys?
-6.
Close. Last I heard, which was I think last night or this morning was -7.
I'm
Dallas.
seeing -7 right now. The matchup predictor on ESPN.com says it's a 78.6% chance for the Cowboys to win, 21.2 for the Bills, 0.2 for a tie.
Well, they give you 3 to 3.5 points just for being the home team most of the time.
Right, so they're saying
So they're
on
being-
a neutral field, Dallas by 4.
Yeah. It's hard to
Cowboys
predict these
don't
two
have-
teams who never play each other, and the Dallas Cowboys have been such a weird team.
They have no history. Kidding.
But like the Cowboys are a team that plays bad teams very poorly, good teams pretty well, but they're just up and down, left and right. The Bills are still a team that hasn't played the best part of their schedule. Is still the next 4 weeks ahead of them, like we were just talking about. So.
Well, the only common opponents you have are the three
Philly.
NFC East teams. Cowboys won 35-17 at home over the Giants, beat Washington by 10 on the road. Those were games in week 1 and 2. And then they killed the Eagles 37-10 the week before the Eagles came to Buffalo.
So that
And
would
they
be
also
your common
Cowboys won
denominator.
37-18 as well over the Giants. So,
New England as well. Common opponents, New England.
well, yeah, that's true too.
New
So
England
the,
and the Jets.
the New England and Jets games, and they did lose to the Jets, and they killed the Dolphins. So, I don't know. We'll see. It's kind of hard to say. Two very different teams.
Yeah, the only good thing is that this week is if they're going to lose multiple games during the stretch, this is one that hurts the least overall in the playoff picture.
I mean, knowing that no matter what happens, you have at least still one game clear of the other wild card teams. No matter what happens, worst case scenario feels pretty good. And if Cleveland beats Pittsburgh, you're 2 games ahead of both of them still. And the Colts are up and down. Tennessee is up and down. The Raiders just got destroyed by the Jets, which thanks to the Jets for helping the Bills out on the standings, I suppose. 'Cause they
Darno
just
was-
cleaned the Raiders out.
Darno was pumped and out enraged, huh?
Yeah, he won the game and then supposedly got wasted and had sex. So good for him. New York Post first to report.
Very neat.
Love sex.
Yeah.
If the Buffalo Bills win this game on Thursday, why will they win the game if they win? What are we going to be talking about on Monday if it's a Bills victory Monday, Friday, whatever?
Very strong defense.
Defense.
Yeah, I think it's a defensive effort. I think they get to 20. It's like a 20-16 type game or whatever. I think you're playing a very conservative coaching staff that it's a very they're risk averse, because I don't want to say they're not capable. They are capable of exploding. Up until the last couple of weeks, Dak Prescott's been one of the best quarterbacks in the league. Like he's not quite the MVP tier, but he's been a tier below
Which is
that.
funny because people were down on his performance yesterday.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, rainy
It-
day,
which is a lot
top
of-
receiver lockdown. It's a tough matchup.
Tough conditions yesterday, but I do think that he's been certainly a good.
I mean, I don't think his 444-yard game against Detroit was what he is this season, but he's definitely not that. He's not.
I mean, he's
that
had
bad.
more. He's had more of those games than he has the game he had against New England. That's for sure. I mean, he's not in the. You look at the MVP tier. You got Lamar, Mahomes, Russell Wilson, and then that next tier is this year has been Dak, Breeze,
Rodgers,
Watson.
Yeah.
Maybe Watson's in that top tier too.
Wilson.
Wilson's
on the, do you say Wilson top tier? Yeah. So we'll see what comes of it. We don't know, but the story, if the Bills win, I mean, literally every opponent's been under 21, right? So, except for Philly. So you hold them under 20, you're good. We'll see what comes of it. But it'll be nice to see him play on Thanksgiving. It'll be a little change of pace. I hope they don't make me mad, but
They might.
don't wreck your meal over it. But it should be fun. We'll see what comes of the Bills and Cowboys here on Turkey Day.
So grab your food, grab your plates, sit down on the couch with your loved ones. Hopefully, all Bills fans, and just enjoy the show,
or move your dinner table in front of the TV.
or do whatever you have to do.
What time is the game?
It's the 4:30 game.
4:30 games. Dallas is always the
Eat
middle.
early.
How was Fort Butte this weekend?
It was wonderful.
Wild games, man.
Yeah, some real crazy games. Like the first Saturday, they went down.
It's a doubleheader against Minnesota.
Yeah, that's the Whitecaps, right?
Yes, they went down the first game 4-0 in the first 9 minutes.
Not an ideal start.
Caught off guard by the speed of the Whitecaps. Very very fast team. Holy crap! But
Defending champions.
defending
Yes.
champions beat the Buttes. But they got caught off guard by their speed. Called timeout after the fourth goal. And then the Caps didn't score again the rest of the game until late in the third period. And the Buttes almost came back. It was 4-3 at one point, and they had lots of chances to tap one in. The puck was back, and it'd be tapped in wide open nets. Just defended well. But fast forward to Sunday, Buttes go down 3-0.
And not in the same manner as they did.
Yeah.
I think the Buttes did a lot better job, even though they were down 3-0.
It was a goal period. It was a very badly officiated game.
Yes, it was definitely very badly
In
officiated.
the second period, they had 7 penalties, and they were pretty bad calls.
And there was 2 5-on-3s in that time for Minnesota, and they only gave up one goal. Mm-hmm. It was just a parade to the penalty box off these who knows what calls half the time.
They allowed 1 goal period, and then they're down 3-0 late in the third period until Taylor Kersey recorded her first career hat trick in under 9 minutes.
Nice time to get it.
It was
Bing, bang,
crazy.
boom.
It was crazy. And Steve's out there calling the game with absolutely no voice. You should have heard his last 2 goal calls. Unfortunately, you can hardly hear him.
Some guy thought that perhaps your feed was going out because his voice was just cracking.
But if you're wondering why Steve isn't here tonight, it's because he might have been able to talk, but understandably didn't want to push himself here tonight.
Yes.
So shout out to Steve.
He's taking his scheduled day of rest.
Buttes maintained second place in the NWHL standings. And the league is so crazy. This league has faced so much adversity in its very young life. And the more adversity they face, the bigger they get. They're showing numbers of the Twitch numbers, and they're getting more and more and more and more views and engagements every week.
Which is great. And that is something that you don't see with these startup leagues. You see the curiosity at the beginning, and then they die out.
So Eric and I were calling the Canisius game on Saturday night, and I wanted to tune in to the broadcast on my phone during the intermission. Unfortunately, it was also during the intermission of the Buttes game, but I turned in, there was nearly 4,000 people watching Zamboni skate around an open ice rink. So, and there was no reason for anyone to have not just switched over to another channel, closed it on their phone for a little bit. I think it does well to show that they're holding those views consistently through, and certainly peaking more during the gameplay. But people are tuning in and not just going away the second that the action stops, which is awesome.
I think one of the great things they did with getting Twitch is it's so interactive. You can have that live interaction even if you're not there. You're interacting with other fans. I mean, I've watched games multiple times, and not even Buttes games sometimes, and there's just so much interaction, and you see some of these people that they're watching the games just because there's a game.
It's fun too as a color commentator. You get to interact with the chat immediately. So I was like, the first game, I was like, I like to bring everyone watching on Twitch.tv into the broadcast here. I said, if this is the Buttes broadcast, Buttes are down 3-0 and need some karma. I want you to fill that chat with Buttes emojis. And I went and looked and just Buttes emojis everywhere. It's kind of cool.
And I couldn't help but seeing that some guy in a cowboy hat was apparently going on.
Yeah, cowboy hats. Buffalo.
You're getting fans that are just kind of identifying themselves as super fans already. I think that's great.
It's a good atmosphere, and I was the Boston Pride of the home game too, and some noted women's hockey writers that I've followed on the internet for a little bit were saying that basically they showed up for the regular seats and there was nowhere to go. It was standing room only for Boston, Connecticut on Saturday too, which there's a lot of interesting things that have gone on in the world of professional women's hockey over the last couple of months.
John Warrow will be reporting on all of that.
John Warrow, noted women's hocky writer.
Big fan.
Big
fan of our pod, fan of his pod, wherever it is.
Fan of his own writing.
That's right.
Slapping himself on the back. But in spite of all of it, the NWHL, I think, has done a really good job of just kind of keeping steady. And, the viewership numbers that they shared, certainly encouraging to see that many people and that many unique views. And they're not going anywhere. They're getting new sponsors. They're doing good things. It seems like they're
new investors.
Yeah, but they're in as good of a place as they've ever been.
I mean, Northtown Center, I'd say, was on Saturday was probably 80-85% full. I mean, the only place where people really weren't that many people sitting was over on the side of the bench, on the benches on the side of the Minnesota bench.
Ironically, where you were standing.
I was I was right in the middle between the two benches, but yeah.
Shout out to Mike. Incredible job on the social media for us. Good job.
It's a multiple man operation for these two and Steve, who He's probably listening to this and tired of hearing his name mentioned. But
I'll tell you the best thing about the Buttes moving into the Northtown Center is that it has encouraged Northtown Center to finally fix the speaker system in the
Oh,
PJ
thank
ring.
God, they finally fixed that then. Oh my God. We've worked with the UB hockey team for 4 or 5 years now, and as long as we've been there, that thing has been broken. So shout out to the NWHL for finally motivating them to fix it, because that thing was driving me insane.
Oh, speaking of, if there's anybody, UB is looking for a PA announcer to
And color
for their
commentator,
for their home games.
What happened to the other guy?
I don't know.
Mike killed him.
Hate to see it. And if you come to a couple random games in January and February, there is a significant chance that I might be doing that. So I'll see everyone there. So going back to the Bulls games, it's a lot of fun to be there for their games. It's a good team.
Speaking of
Northtown Center's got a lot of fun hockey going on.
Speaking of John Wero, when I was doing 11-day power play,
Terrible intro, by the way.
when I was doing the power play forever ago,
Yeah.
he interviewed me for an article, and we've had a couple run-ins on Twitter, me and Wero. And he didn't know it was me.
No.
The whole time he was interviewing me, he was like sheepishly smiling. That's a random story. That's all. I don't know.
Did you ask him
That's
how
all.
the elevator was?
Huh?
Did you ask him how the elevator was?
Can I say
I
take
forgot
the
about that
elevator up
one.
here?
Talk to him about Uber. Talk to him about the replacements. All the hits. Rock and Waro.
Yeah.
Canisius Hockey had a pretty good game on Saturday. They got absolutely jobbed. If you watch the replay of the 6th Tampa Bay goal that was taken off the board, RPI basically scored that goal, and the referee let it stand on review, and Canisius lost 3-2. That was the 3rd RPI goal. Clear-cut goalie interference. Probably their best 60-minute game of the year. Rensselaer is a really good team. It's disappointing to see, but they are. If anyone's around, I know probably a big Black Friday shopping crowd here in this room, but if you're free on Friday...
And I love to go to the store and just really experience my fellow man.
the chaos.
I want that chafing dish. No, I want that chafing. Classic stuff.
Canisius Hockey is home against Army West Point Friday and Saturday afternoons at 1 o'clock. So if you want to take a break from your shopping, go downtown, watch some good Division I college hockey. We'll be there. Encourage you to come down or check us out online. Both games will be broadcast live on Flow Hockey TV.
Very good. What are you doing for Thanksgiving?
Eating.
You hosting again?
No.
No?
No.
Where are you going?
Leslie's. We never hosted. We did a Friendsgiving last year.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
I made a phenomenal turkey.
Yeah.
It was pretty good.
Created it from the egg and raised it.
Going to the Leslie's aunt's house.
The dogs have been
Everybody
chasing
else?
around and back for months.
That's right.
What are you guys doing? What are you doing?
I'm leaving in about 18 hours for Raleigh.
Ooh, a lot of shit.
So I'll be down there until
stayed home tonight.
Saturday. No, that's fine.
We called in.
That's all right.
And a handsome caller.
Oh, yeah. Who's that mysterious man? We'll be down there until Saturday. I got many family members on both sides, both mine and my wife's side. So.
You home just in time for Cyber Monday.
Cyber Monday again.
A place that you need to be home for sure.
Yeah.
Yep. Get that chafing dish online that I already found the great deal on Friday. But yeah, no, it'll be good. Looking forward to. I don't know if I've ever watched a Bills game with my family down there, so that'll be interesting. My sister will be over and just talk to her, and she'll tell you what a big Bills fan she is.
I'm actually very intrigued by how the dynamic of the day is going to change with the Bills game being on.
Well, we always eat whenever. So we've off and on we go down there. I went down there for like 15 straight years probably for Thanksgiving, and then we kind of tailed off. So it's been quite a while since we've been down there for the holiday, but we always ate around like 2 anyway. So it will just mean that I'll just get a little more lubed up, and I'm not driving anywhere. So.
Well, for me, if Thanksgiving is always like hanging out with the family, drinking.
Yeah.
Well, it's mostly drinking for me and our family. But, and then there's a football out in the background you kind of just like stare at while you're talking and drinking.
Yeah.
But now it's going to be like a Bills game that actually matters that everyone's into. So I'm really curious. I'm not worried about the whole what time we eat or anything because the Bills game is just like, how's it going to change the whole...
7:30 is going to roll around. I'm going to do my traditional grab a bowl, grab some cold turkey, cold gravy, cold stuffing, cold mashed potatoes, mash them all together, eat them, consume them, and then just decide if I'm going to be happy or sad after the conclusion of the bowl. But... Nice. I love leftovers. I'm a cliched, simple man.
With food choices like that, you should be happy.
Yeah, absolutely. So,
Top number 1 food holiday. It's not even close for me.
No.
Like Christmas and Easter, you can do whatever you want for Christmas and Easter, but Thanksgiving is on a level of its own in terms of food. And it's stuffing by itself, and the fact that you only really eat it around this time of the year sets it alone.
You know, my new favorite thing is two Christmases ago, we had a party at Leslie's dad's house, my wife's dad's house, and there was miscommunication who was bringing the food. So nobody brought any food. So we ended up we were calling around, see everybody's open on Christmas Eve night, and the Chinese buffet place open.
Yeah.
So we had the Christmas Story dinner. We went and ordered a bunch of Chinese food, and just like a Chinese food feast. We did it last year too. We're doing it again this year.
There you go.
It's fun, new fun thing. It's actually pretty great.
I've heard Chinese food on Christmas too. A couple Jewish families I know, that's what they do on Christmas. They go get Chinese food and then they go to the movies at night.
Like a great day, actually.
That actually does sound like a fun day.
Well, there you go. Your Christmas is all sorted now, gents.
There you go. Pull out your menorahs and have a good time.
All right. Well, let's wrap this thing up. Jeff, do your thing. Close it out.
Yeah, I appreciate that you guys think I do such a great job of this. I really just read like a mental list of...
You're doing it the past 3 years.
Yeah, it's fine.
Keep going, bud.
It's been a minute. You can find this great podcast, wonderful podcast, and many others like it, wherever great podcasts are found, but namely places like Spotify, Google Play, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher. We are on Facebook at 716 Sports Podcast, on Twitter at 716 Sport Podcast. We will have probably a whole heaping bunch to talk about by the time we're back here with you next week. Will the Sabres dress 12 forwards at any time in the next 7 days? Will the Buffalo Bills go to 9-3 with a big victory on the road at Dallas? Will Rasmus Dahlin's concussion mean that the Sabres only have 9 healthy defensemen? This and more questions to be answered. We're back here with you next Monday. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll talk to you soon.